My name is Dave Foord, and in this screencast I'm going to show how we can use Google Docs to create a collaborative learning activity. Now in this case I'm going to use a presentation which is very similar to sort of like a PowerPoint, but there are other types of Google Docs including spreadsheets, which is a bit like Excel, and then document, which is like Word, and the principles work the same for different purposes. Now the example I'm going to use here is I was recently running some training at an event, and what I did was I created a template in the presentation software within Google. So I put in a title, gave some instructions to the group, and then I split them into 4 smaller groups. And what they had to do was they had to visit a website and then they had to answer some questions. And I created a box for each of the questions so that they could fill them in. And the idea was they would all be working in the same document, but each of the little mini groups had their own page, so there was no issue with the conflicts. Now the advantage of this was I could get them working on their own website for about 10 minutes or so. I could then ask them to have a look at what other people have been doing on the websites that they've been looking at. So they can just click on the different slides within the presentation and then they could see the contributions from the other groups. So it's a very, very good way of working collaboratively. I, as the tutor, could watch this from afar. So I could be sat at a computer watching what everybody's doing without having to kind of walk around and sort of put people off. And I can also use this if people are remote, so they don't have to be in the same room or the same country. They can actually be doing this simultaneously, or even not simultaneously, all over the world, and it would still work. So how do we create one of these mechanisms? Well, first of all, we need a Google account. So if you create a Google account and then you go to Google Drive, it's where you have all of your documents. You can then go to the Create button and you have the option of creating whatever you want. So you can have documents, presentations, as I mentioned earlier, spreadsheets, etc. So normally, with this example, I'd be going for a presentation. Or, if you want, you can create the presentation in something like PowerPoint and then you can upload it and convert it into a presentation afterwards. So what I did was I created my presentation, and it's very simple. If you're familiar with PowerPoint, it should be quite quick and easy to learn. Gave it a title, put some instructions in. What I then did was I created a structure for one of my slides. So I just created the boxes and I resized them and I resized the text until it was how I wanted it and how I thought it would work. And I created this slide that looked like this. Then all I had to do was duplicate the slide as many times as I needed for my activity. So I duplicate the slides, and then in each slide all you needed to do was change the number, the title and the web address, and then there's your activity. So once I've created that, I then need to share it so that the people can access it. So if I go to this share button here, you'll see when I hover over it, it says that it's private only to me. That's the default setting. So if I click on the share button, it tells me who has access. So it's private apart from myself. Now the way I used this activity was I changed it so that anyone with the link could have access to it. So that meant I'm going to worry about inviting people or knowing what their email addresses are. Anybody can get to it as long as they've got the link. And then I've changed this so that anybody can edit it. So all I have to then do is get this link to people and then they can come in and they can edit, and it's dead easy and dead quick. I click on save. And what it does is it gives me that web address. Now that's the web address that I need to get to everybody. So I can right click and I can copy. And I could email that to them, or I could put that into a URL or a PowerPoint presentation or whatever. If I wanted them to type that in, because they were using their own devices, it would be quite tricky to do that. So I'm going to shorten it using goo.gl as a web address. So all I need to do is paste that long web address into this box here and click on shorten. And what it does is it gives me a shorter address, and I can just put that on the board in a PowerPoint and staff can type that in, or attendees can type that in, and they can get it onto their device. If I also go down here, what it does is it's created details for that link that I've just shortened, and if I click on there, it even gives me a QR code. So if I copy that, just right click, copy, go into PowerPoint or Word, I can paste that in, so if people have smartphones, they can point the phone at it and it will just take them straight to their website. So that's a quick summary of how we can set up a Google Doc for a collaborative activity, how we can get the sharing settings right, and then get it to the learners.